All right, all right, all right. So what do we have here? Fellas, this is... Maybe I'll start out by telling you why I have this. So, me and my mom, we share the same birthday, right? And every year I tell her the same lame ass joke. Oh, what a present I turned out to be. And then we all have a big laugh because we all know I ain't no present. But anyway, so every year my mom asks me, she says, Zach, what do you want for your birthday? And I always tell her, a new wallet or a new pair of work boots, right? Every year, same thing. And every year I say, Mom, what do you want for your birthday? And every year, same thing. She says, I just want you to be happy. Well, I can officially say that I have fulfilled that. And I'll tell you why. So every single year when she tells me that, I always say, well, you're going to end up with another knife, right? And she does. She's got Yanagi Buzz from Seki City, Japan. I believe that they were handcrafted by Nobuya Hayashi. Don't quote me on that. Don't kill me if I'm wrong. Nobuya Hayashi of Seki City, Japan. I think she's got one of his. She has very, very high-end knives from Germany. I can't even remember what the name of them are, but they were available on Knife Center at one point in time. Which is, I think I got them from Knife Center. She's got astronomically absurd steak knives that no one else has. And, basically she always says, I just want you to be happy. And for those of you who are members of my channel, you've seen the review on the UTX Pink Ultra Tech, right? Now, the story behind that was I walked into D&K Knives. I was looking at knives. I bought something, and I mentioned the UTX line. And Donnie said, look, if you want this pink UTX, I'll give you a hell of a deal on it. And the deal that he gave me, I would have been fucking stupid to walk away from. So I was left between the decision of either keeping the thing and never letting a soul see me walk around with that, or selling it. Because at the time when I was thinking about keeping it, I was thinking about keeping it to like save it for, I don't know, whenever I find my one. But, if you saw the women available at my age, you would understand the gay community. I'll tell you that right now. And for those people that are my age, that's fucking true too. Jesus Christ, man, there ain't nothing. You'd be better off single. So I took that UTX into work. This is all relative. This is all coming up. I took that knife into work. And the very first girl that saw that knife bought it immediately. And I didn't even get a chance to show it to anybody else. And she was so ecstatic with that knife. And I decided that that's what I want for my mom. So, I explained to the girl that bought that knife from me that, it is not very common that Microtech does anything outside of black or, stormtroopers or Deadpool or zombie things. It is very, very rare that they do anything at all in pink. And I told her to hang on to that. And she's one of those people that kind of got to see the difference between a $20 Walmart knife that she was carrying around, and I would let her use my knives that I brought into work. And she saw the difference between the steels, so she knew that she wasn't buying trash. I didn't even have to build value in the product. She literally saw it was pink, and said, I want that. How much? A dead serious look in her eye. Well, actually how that happened was I said, I showed it to her, and her eyes lit up. And before she could say anything, she gasped. She's like, oh. And I was like, yeah, imagine asserting your dominance while you're cutting open mail. And something in her changed. She immediately wanted to buy that knife. So how this all plays together is, you know, I realized that if my mom just wants me to be happy, then she better be okay with me being happy by buying her knives, because there's something about buying knives for other people that genuinely makes me happy. So I'm not going to upload this video until my mom's birthday, and she has received this knife in the mail, because I don't want to spoil it, obviously. So let's get into the review. I'm sorry for the long introduction, but I wanted you guys to know the story behind why I had this knife, and now you kind of know. So obviously what we're looking at here is the Duke 2. This was designed by Protech. If you do want to look up the model number, you're looking at BST26.Duke.1. So BST stands for Blade Show Texas. 26 stands for the year 2026. The model is the Duke. And point 1 I'm not sure about, because this is a Duke 2 to my knowledge. So what this is a highly sought after limited edition automatic knife built by Protech. Now Protech is a company that a lot of their knives revolve around like mafioso style auras, like The Godfather, for example. Very, very rarely, and you know, you go on a Blade HQ right now, and you type in Protech and you just doom scroll. You're gonna see in 28 pages, and I've already done this, so you can do it if you want to, but I've already done it. In 2 pages, there are 2 pink knives. And 28 pages, I'm sorry. 28 pages of Protechs, and I am including the out of stocks. There are 2 pink knives. There's the Runt, and there's the Duke. And basically, they only make these in limited runs. This was specifically made for a limited run for Blade Show. They only do stuff like this in limited runs for conventions. This in particular model, there was 80 of them made, and my mom is getting number 5. So, you know, when it comes to pink knives, guys, I have always passed them up. I didn't care if it was a one-off by Anthony Marfione or Heater or whatever. I just had no use for them, because that's obviously does not fit my personality. But never one time did I consider what something like that would mean to a person of female origin. What quality would mean to something like them, and how rare is it that a man goes into a store and buys a pink knife and gives it to his mom? You know what I mean? Like, how many times have you done that? Most men don't want to be seen with anything pink. You know, unless it was back in the 90s when everybody was wearing pink collared shirts and they were popping their collar and looking stupid as hell. For those of you who remember. So, only 80 of these were made. My mama's got number 5 coming to her. This was specifically designed to be a very highly distinctive pocket knife. It is absolutely instant social status for women. The actuator button itself is white pearl. It was specifically designed to not look like any other pocket knife. When you pull this out and use it, people are going to know that you have something very, very, very special. We're looking at a 2.65 drop point blade. I'm just going to kind of go over a couple of things real quick that I want to get out of the way. 2.65 drop point blade that does not meet California requirements for automatic knives. But my mom does not live in California, so she doesn't have to put up with Gary Newsom and his fucking nonsense. So MagnaCut, that is the steel that is on this blade. And I'm making this video for my mom to watch after she opens the knife. So if I say things that you already know, don't be pissed off or fuck it. Well, you can click out of the channel, I don't care. But basically what I'm doing is I'm trying to explain this to somebody that doesn't really know a whole lot about knives. And if I was going to highlight of all of the features of the deep carry pocket clip, that literally, if you slide that in your pocket, it will disappear in your pocket and people will have no idea what that is. No idea. If at all, that back portion of the knife will be even with your pocket. So it's designed to disappear. There's a lot of features. I'll go over it here in a minute, but I really wanted to spend some time talking about MagnaCut. For those of you who follow Knife Center, and I do, I literally go to sleep to David C. Anderson's videos every single night. I have been watching his videos for years. Ever since Ben Peterson left Blade HQ, I really haven't watched any Blade HQ videos. I think that the happiness from that company is just gone when he left. But David C. Anderson is a very respectable member of the community. And I will say how highly annoying it is when he's constantly talking about MagnaCut. If you look at any of his videos, he is always talking about MagnaCut. I think that that's one of his favorite steels. He hasn't admitted that yet, but whenever a MagnaCut knife pops up, he talks about it a lot. And that's where a lot of my information is coming from. So what I wanted to talk about was MagnaCut was developed by Dr. Laren Thomas. He wanted to design something that a super steel with the best corrosion resistance and usability for an EDC, an everyday carry user, known to man. This is a brand new super steel that we're talking about here, and I'm going to kind of go over some of the properties. I didn't go into like super huge detail, but there are some things that I wanted to talk about for those of you who don't know anything about MagnaCut. So its corrosion resistance outperforms the super steels, CPM 154, S30V, and even 20CV. 20CV is the equivalent of Bowler M390. For my mom that's watching this video, these are so far and above and beyond 440C. And if you don't know what 440C is, that's okay. It's not a big deal, but 440C was basically kind of a standard steel that was used in cutlery for 30 or 40 years before somebody got tired of it and said, you know what, we need to develop some better steels here. The manufacturer of MagnaCut is a company called Crucible. They are a highly respected steel supplier. Oh, and I also forgot to mention that this is a Protech. This is a USA made knife. This is legitimately made in America. And to my knowledge, I'm aware that the Crucible factory recently shut down. But to my knowledge, the Crucible steel is still American steel. So I looked it up and found out that on the Duke 2, the MagnaCut HRC is 62. Sometimes they're 62.5, but they're pretty consistent at a Rockwell hardness of 62. So at that at that point of a 62 or a 62.5 Rockwell hardness that's specifically designed for precision cutting, utility knife purposes. It's great for hunting. It's great for kitchen use. It is absolutely designed for being used every day. With that being said, I do want to mention this. A lot of people, before you disagree with me in the comments, you need to go look up what you're talking about before you say something that you're not sure about. So the carbon content is 1.15%. The chromium is 10.7%. Vanadium is 4%. The reason why I wanted to bring up, and there's other molybdenum and nitrogen and some other things, but the reason why I wanted to stop and talk about vanadium really quickly is because the super steels that have a higher vanadium content, like 4%, is actually kind of up there. They cannot be sharpened on traditional whetstones. And I know the comments section is going to blow up and you're going to say, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, da 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 da. Unfortunately, I actually do know what I'm talking about. You have to use diamond stones to sharpen basically everything that's a 60, I would say a 61 HRC all the way up into the 70s. You are going to wear your whetstone down before you create a burr on that apex. This is not like kitchen cutlery at all. The typical garbage that you find at Walmart or even some high-end stores that maybe have some HCR 13 MOV blades or AUS 8 steels, or just run-of-the-mill steels. This is not like that at all. When you have a Rockwell hardness of 60 or above, you need something exceedingly aggressive and harder than the material that you're sharpening. And unfortunately, Shapton stones, I'm not kidding you, fixing to blow almost $1,000 on Shapton whetstones when it was brought to my attention by a professional knife sharpener that sharpens tomahogany, everything. And he told me that if you're, when he asked me what it was that I was thinking about sharpening, I immediately started spatting off all the different steels. D2 tool steel, S35VN, S90V, 3CV, Bowler M390, Bowler M390MK, which I don't know what the properties are, but I know that it's from the same Austrian company, and it's probably very similar to Bowler M390, but it's a very specific steel to Microtech. CPM 154, I'm Rex 121. I'm naming off all these different steels, and I may or may not purchase a Rex 121. I don't know if it's worth it or not because I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to do with it, but regardless. So the vanadium content is the reason why you have to use diamond stones when it comes to high-end super steels. So you can't just take this knife to an Ace Hardware and say, hey, can you sharpen this for $15? They will not be able to help you at this point. We have reached a level of super steel that is untouchable unless you have a resin bonded diamond stone, or you can order, the only place to get like 6,000 or 8,000 grit, like actual diamond stones, the only thing that you can do is order them directly from Japan, and they're $500 a stone. So your local knife sharpener isn't going to be able to help you with this. People have suggested trying to use the sandpaper on a belt grinder. I don't know. I don't know how that would work. I don't have, tens of thousands of dollars to go test out if a belt sander is going to do anything at this point of a Rockwell hardness. I just don't. What I do know is that resin bonded stones from companies like Nano Hone, for example, they're not cheap. But if you need these sharpened, it's going to cost a fortune. So the design of the MagnaCut was designed with high edge retention, high wear resistance, high corrosion resistance, so that you don't have to worry about sharpening it all the time, because they know they know what they got into. And that is the genius mind of Dr. Laren Thomas. Absolutely genius. So that's why I wanted to bring up the whole vanadium thing. So what we talked about, okay, so toughness at 62 HRC with MagnaCut is 38 foot-pounds. This is straight off Crucible's website, the manufacturer of the Magna steel that is on this knife. So at 38 foot-pounds for toughness, we are outperforming S90V, 20CV, S45VN, S35VN, CPM 154, and obviously 440C. 440C is going to be kind of the standard that you're going to see them use in a lot of their testing, because that's how they decide what is 100%, and we'll go over that here in a minute. So, for corrosion resistance, this is a test that Crucible does on their steels. This is an actual test. They use a 1% salt water spray test over the course of 72 hours. And what they do is they spray salt water on the blade over the course of 72 hours, and they count how many spots develop in the blade. Well, with S35VN, over the course of 72 hours of salt water sitting on that blade, they develop 90 spots. For S45VN, after spraying that with salt water for 72 hours, they developed 40 spots of rust. 20CV, over the course of 72 hours, sprayed with 1% salt water, 20CV developed less than 5 spots of rust. It's very difficult to tell by their charting, but it's way less than 10 and it's way less than half. So it's probably more closer to 2 to 3 spots of rust. MagnaCut sprayed with 1% salt water over the course of 72 hours developed 0 spots. This knife is ideal for somebody that knows nothing about knives, because it is designed to be used, heavily abused, and put away wet. That is 100% the reason why I picked up this knife, is because it's pink and my mom can do whatever she wants with it and doesn't have to worry about anything. With her high-end Japanese steels, with her Yanagiba, for example, she can't put them in the dishwasher. They have to be hand washed and hand dried immediately after washing. You can't just wash them and put them on a rack and let them dry themselves. They have to be dried immediately. So there's some things that I wasn't thinking about when I gifted my mom a knife, because I was so focused on giving her something so astronomically absurd that nobody else in her entire neighborhood would even own. And when they came over, they would say, "What the fuck?" You know what I mean? That's the reason why I purchased this knife. One, it is an instant social status. Instantly, as soon as you pull this out of your pocket, the button that you press to deploy the blade is made out of freaking white pearl. There is nothing about this knife that is cheap. Nothing. This is made by a premium American company called Protech. They don't make garbage. They never have and they never will. And they also don't make cheap knives. They never have and they never will. because they're about quality, and I appreciate that very much about them, especially in today's society. So, edge retention test. This is coming from Crucible's website. So what they do is a silica card cutting test. And what they do is they measure the amount of silica cards that are cut, which gives them a relative wear resistance. So when I say 440C is at 100%, what I'm saying is when they used 440C to cut through silica cards, when that knife stopped cutting, that is the 100%. So that is where you're getting your percentages from, so that you know how the edge resistance of a super steel compares to the edge resistance of a very common 440C. And what they do is they heat treat the 440C to its maximum potential of hardness that you can achieve with 440C, and then they do this test, this cut test of silica cards. So we have 440C is 100%, right? Up against 440C, we have CPM 154, which was 120%, so it cut 120% the amount of cards before it stopped cutting. We have S35VN at 130%. You have S45VN at 140%, so it cut almost 1.5 times the amount of cards that 440C did at its maximum potential. 20CV did 155%. So again, right around 1.5 times of what 440C could do at its maximum potential, done by a legitimate company that knows how to heat treat knives, because there's a difference between 440C that came from Walmart and 440C that came from a legitimate steel company. A massive difference between that two. And we have S90V at 195%. So literally twice the amount of silica cards that 440C could cut before it quit cutting. S90V did twice that. Now, we have MagnaCut. MagnaCut came in at 135%. So the hardest that you can heat treat 440C to become, MagnaCut did 135%, outperformed 440C at its hardest, at its hardest level. So we are beating CPM 154, which is a very highly respected knife in the community, knife steel in the community that's used on a lot of very, we are now in the high-end realm. The 150 CPM 154 has historically been used on very high-end knives. S35VN, that is also another super steel that MagnaCut has outperformed, that is used on a lot of very high-end knives. S45VN just barely beat the edge retention test by 5%, and literally 1.5 times what 440C can achieve. And S90V did 195%, so almost, we'll just say two times what 440C could achieve. So basically, my mom, in my opinion, with what the steel companies have put out on the shelf and we have available to this day, has the best option that I could have possibly have given her. That is why this knife is selected. It was selected for corrosion resistance from somebody that doesn't have to worry if she gets it wet, or doesn't have to worry if she wants to wash the blade off and forgets to dry it off, and then now she's got a rusted knife. You know, I don't want her to have to worry about those things. I want her to use this knife to be respected by all the other females that when they see her pulling this knife out and deploying the blade, they will instantly know that my mom is not to be messed with. you know, that's what I want to put in the hands of my mom. And I think Protech couldn't have been a better company to go with. And it just so happens that I ran across this. These are not for sale. These are these are out of stock everywhere. Only 80 of them were made. My mom's getting number 5. The only way to get your hands on this at the time was to actually show up at Blade Show in Texas and purchase this. So, you know, good luck finding one. Blade HQ, they're out of stock. Knife Center, they're out of stock. I don't know if you'll be able to find them anywhere else, but that is the Protech Duke 2. And Mom, I really hope you enjoy this knife. And I want to let you know that it genuinely makes me happy to buy you knives. So, happy birthday. I love you. And, you know, enjoy. All right, Mom. Until next year, we'll give you another one. All right, fellas. I hope you learned a little bit about Protech Duke. You know, if you have any questions, feel free to shout out. It'd be interesting to do a video of my mom using the knife, but unfortunately she does not. She lives like 2,000 miles away from me, so it's not often that I get to see her. She is coming down here in October, but obviously this falls under the automatic knife law 1950, and I would not want to put this on a carry-on, or not a carry-on, but a baggage claim. Just because I don't know what the fuck TSA would do. They'd probably take it. You know what I mean? It's just not worth it. But it would be so cool to get videos of her using it on stuff, and you know, kind of get a before and after and how it held up type of deal. You know. But yes. The other thing that I wanted to tell you, Mom, is I do have diamond stones, and I am getting my hands on diamond resin stones. So in the event that you should need this knife sharpened, there's one of 2 options. Either we can send it to Protech, should that day ever arise, or 2, if Protech for some reason says, oh, we only produce those a handful of times and we don't do warranty work on them, which I don't think that they would ever say. But if that apocalyptic day ever came, your son has the ability to sharpen this knife. All right. I love you, Mom. I hope you have a wonderful birthday, and we'll talk at you soon. Fellas, thanks for chiming in, and we'll see you on the next round. All right. Peace.